The opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Cable 14, its sponsors, or its shareholders, Cogeco Cable, Shaw Cable, and Source Cable Limited.
Welcome to the December 13th edition of the Opinionators. I am Larry Deani, and the Opinionators is an opinion program on Cable 14 that talks about all of the issues at the local political level as well as provincial and federal level according to the mainstream parties, and the opinions are voiced by our panel of experts. And let's meet them right now. Representing the Liberal Party is Ron Corsini. Hello, Ron.
Larry, nice to be here.
And Tara Crugnale of the Conservative Persuasion.
Hi there, Larry.
And Alex Johnstone from the NDP Perspective.
Hello, Larry.
Nice to see you all, and I don't know whether the camera can pick up the Christmas cards from the various politicians, provincially and federally, that you folks brought in. Very nice.
It is the season.
It is the season, and in fact, we're going to start with a provincial issue that affects us locally. And we're going to come to you on this one, Ron, because it has to do with the students striking back. You know that this issue of Bill 115 and the protests by the teachers and the strikes, in fact, rotating around the province, has had some students actually walking out. And they are protesting both they say, the teachers as well as the government for having taken away extracurriculars and disrupting their education. And was Mr. McGuinty making matters worse this week, Ron, when he actually suggested that, contrary to what the teachers have been saying, that this is all about money? Ron, can they reach resolution by the end of this year?
I would hope so. I'm really deeply disappointed for the students and the teachers, I guess, that some resolution hasn't been made, and I'm hoping that they make some sort of settlement, negotiated settlement by the end of the year. Mr. McGuinty and the Minister of Education has sort of allowed teachers to vent their frustration with this whole process and allow them to go on one-day strikes without recalling them. Now they are doing that on a rotating basis. They are giving families 72 hours notice. It's a disruption for everyone. As for the money, I don't know. I think with some of the teachers it may be the money, and other teachers are probably going to say it's their lack of right to negotiate a settlement. And this is what they're trying to do now. They have a template. The Catholic teachers, elementary and secondary teachers in the province settled. I see that some of the other unions are still negotiating to settle. Some of the other non-teaching unions are hoping to settle before the end of the year. I feel bad for the students. And I know that the students took, they walked out too. And I'm sure a lot of them would say, I want to get out of class.
I don't even know what this... I'm happy that the students took a stand and they went out and they tried to voice their frustration, because this is hurting them the most. It's the students that are being affected by this.
And parents too.
Strangely, they were not even united themselves in who they were rallying against. I mean, many were against the government. Only a few thought that the teachers were at fault. Others thought the union was at fault. So I wish that they had a bit more of a coherent message, because that I think would have meant more, and more eyes would have been on them if that were the case. That being said, Dalton McGuinty coming out this week and making that flub about it being about wages, sure, we could think it's about wages. There are certainly other things on the table here, and I just felt like he was kind of poking at a hornet's nest by doing that. He's been trying to stay out of the spotlight in this case for a number of weeks, throwing the different cabinet ministers to the wolves instead, and this was not the time for him to come out and make such a statement. Because
was it a provocative statement, do you think? Or did it help define the narrative? Because it is about wages, let's face it.
It's
Yeah, it
it's
is.
about
It is
wages.
not
and
about
it's about the right to
wages.
strike. And Larry, you know that I would consider teaching to be an essential service, and I would have it deemed as such. So I am against teachers having that right to strike, because I think that students need to learn. And teachers go into their profession knowing what they're going to get, and they should be happy with that, or they should choose another profession.
Well, okay, so tell me why it's not about wages.
Well, Larry, I'm going to have to debunk your liberal lies once again. I think
I'm an impartial host here, right?
Well, except for
Yeah.
you are weighing in and saying that it is about wages.
Well, tell me
Teachers
why it's
have been
not.
coming
It
out
is
He
not
since
didn't
August.
say it was about wages. He said
It's
the
about
min-
benefits, it's
the
about wages.
premier said
But
it
it's
was
not.
about wages.
It is not. It is not about benefits. It's not about wages. Back in August, the teachers came out. Actually, in July, the teachers came out and said that they accepted a wage freeze and accepted, a freeze on moving up the grid. The only issue that they had was Bill 115 taking away the labor rights, and
So explain what rights are being taken away by
their
Bill
right to
115.
strike. There was no.
And what would
need-
they strike over?
Well, the fact is, Larry,
Wages.
the fact is that you shouldn't be taking away rights no matter what. These are democratic rights. Why?
We're not taking away your right not to be a teacher.
No, but
you can choose
you
not
are
to be a
taking away
teacher.
labor rights, and it was absolutely unnecessary. Had the government simply told the school boards, this is the parameters that we would like you to negotiate in, we would all have agreements by this time.
You're
They have
talking
set
about
parameters.
I think
teachers
that-
wanting to have the democratic
wanna
right
go
to do
back
whatever,
to-
but they're saying they have the democratic right to do whatever they want to do, yet then why are the unions putting down their foot again and saying that they'll be fined $500 if they're going against what the union wants them to do during these work to roll campaigns?
All right, let's give Alex a chance.
I did want to touch on the students. The majority of students were in support of the teachers, which I think is telling. I also think it's telling that they're very much wanting to have returned their clubs and their sports teams. This is an important part of the school curriculum that has not been incorporated by certainly Liberals and certainly not the Harris government.
Well, who knows what they're
and
saying to their students? What people are saying to the students? Oh, well, I would like to be there at the end of the day to help you with your stuff, but the government
I think
isn't
at the end of the
letting me.
day,
And then you
sports,
wonder why
clubs, all
they're-
of that needs to be incorporated into the curriculum because it's such an important aspect to the students. I think as well that you pointed out that McGuinty had come out and he was certainly poking the hornet's nest this week, spreading those liberal lies and saying that this was about wages when it was
Well, I
not.
didn't say it was lies. I
And,
just thought he was poking the hornet's
I think
nest.
what I do think is once we have a new Liberal leader elected, their first order will be to settle this, probably by repealing Bill 115, and that will be what defines the Liberal Party, and I think that's what Liberals will hope to get them
But
reelected
what's
in
going
a
to
spring
happen
or fall
between that time
election.
frame between Bill 115 coming into effect at the beginning of the year and someone being elected on January 25th?
I think that it will continue as it is right now.
with the
All right.
protests.
Okay, well, listen, we're going to find out because the end of the year is coming up.
Days away.
I don't know whether there's going to be a settlement by then, but hopefully saner heads will prevail. And as you said, it is about kids, and hopefully the kids' interests will be kept front and center. Let's take this to another level, though, and this one is going to come to you, Tara. And it has to do with the robocalls that we've been hearing about now for the last
Years.
it seems forever. And there's a court case going on, and lawyers for the government, as well as lawyers for individuals who think that their rights, speaking of rights to be freely allowed to choose whom they want to vote for, are weighing in front of a judge. And the lawyer for these citizens, although he admits there isn't a smoking gun that points directly at the government, the circumstantial evidence certainly suggests that there was a concerted effort to deny people the opportunity to vote by these robocalls. What do you make of that?
To put it very politely, Larry, it's just a bunch of bull. You have disgruntled citizens that are doing all they can to discredit this government. And just like you said, there is no actual evidence, no smoking gun to suggest that the Conservatives made any concerted effort to quell the rights of the individuals of this country. None whatsoever. Can I be held responsible for something that someone I don't know did, a phone call somebody made? I cannot be, and neither should Stephen Harper. We don't really know what happened. You just have people saying things, and you have their word against the words of RMG. It isn't fair, and this shouldn't continue.
It seems to me, Alex, that even those who worked for Elections Canada were being told that government, Conservative Party, I shouldn't say government, Conservative Party operatives were making phone calls directing people to the wrong addresses.
Who told them that, Larry?
Well, this is what the caller said. Now, whether it's true or not, the judge will have to decide. What do you make of that situation, though?
Well, I think that certainly the evidence is still rolling out. This is a big case. I do think that it doesn't matter, Tara, what who did it. It doesn't matter if the robocalls were initiated by the Liberals or the Conservatives, although most likely the Conservatives. But at the end of the day,
you know, you're really throwing that out
no,
there.
not
Certainly
the NDP.
not the NDP.
Certainly
Okay.
not.
Don't
but I think
don't
that
make libelous claims.
at the end of the day, there was a wrong, and it needs to be right. You know, a lot of people were deterred from voting. Their democratic right, and
When you
I
say
think
a
that
lot of people, everyone is throwing out
thousands of
numbers,
people.
and we don't know the actual.
And these were ridings that were
case studies
very
of every
close,
single
very
person.
close. You know,
and
if
all of those
just
people
a few
went and
hundred
voted, it would
votes or a
not
few
have made
dozen
a
votes in
difference.
some
Mr. Peter Van
cases.
Loan, hang on just a second. Let's allow the opposition
What
to
an
speak.
honor.
Yeah.
These were very close ridings. They were obviously targeted because they were so close. Some of them, you know, it was a few hundred votes. Some of them, it was as few as a few dozen votes. So absolutely, if households were being targeted, voters were being persuaded not to vote, then
You
there
give
should
us
be
too
a
much
re-election. And that will certainly send a message to whoever the perpetrator of the robocalls was, telling them that they won't get away with it, that we will do a re-election.
And Harper is still flying highest in the polls.
You
and
have to sit your foot down for democracy.
Clearly, Canadians are happy with the government that we're providing for
Despite the shenanigans that went
Yeah,
on. But hang on, Ron, because it seems to me that there was at least one MP from Guelph, Mr. Valeriot, Liberal MP, who had to apologize because robocalls are a little messy in his riding. So, I mean, is there a point to be made here for all of us that elections can get messy and people can overstep bounds? What's your take on
Well,
this?
sure. I mean, you know, sometimes you have some overzealous campaign workers, and I went through that. You know, and you try to control that from happening. But if there is evidence that some of the tampering went on and some people's democratic rights were denied, then there should be a by-election in those ridings. If there's without a doubt, if the whatever party is guilty of, whether it's the Conservative or the NDP,
party. I don't think that this came down from the
it was
party,
in
Ron.
favor
This was just a rogue group
it was in
organized
favor
across the country. Come
It
on,
was not
Tara, this
and it was a
organized.
number of
There
ridings.
was no
It was a
organization.
number
Just
of
random
ridings.
And
robocalls.
guess what, Alex? If it was organized, I don't think any party would be stupid enough to do what was done. It was really insane the way that
I
it went.
just hope-
People went
Unless
about
it was done so cleverly that you can't find the
So-
smoking
Yeah,
gun. So
pure
who knows?
routine.
But
I mean,
listen,
I would hope that
last comment because we need to
I would
move.
hope that if the evidence is there, then those ridings should have a by-election.
So it's
Won't
before a judge now. Let's hope that at least we get to the bottom of it so that we can fix it for the future.
Absolutely.
This one is for you, Alex, and it has to do with the federal government that seems to be rushing through a private member's bill that would force unions to disclose financial information to the Canadian Revenue Agency, and that would be posted online. Some have seen this as just needed transparency. Others have seen it as an anti-union move. What do you make of this?
Certainly is an anti-union move. There's going to be piles and piles of paperwork now that unions have to do. Some of it, you know, completely outrageous, like give us, you know, the exact percentage of political advocacy work being done.
It would be nice to know.
You know, it's, well, union work, I would say, is all political. You know, it's, you know, there's a lot of, you know, advocacy for human rights, advocacy for your members. I mean, that is political. I think that the Conservative Party, there's no need for it, absolutely no need for it. And unions have said that it's going to be costing them an arm and a leg. So, whereas unions who previously had lower membership dues, they will actually have to raise those dues in order to start paying for all the paperwork and all the auditing that's going to have to happen. Auditing is not cheap.
No, it is not, but sometimes it is necessary.
They get it done once a year.
When you have a group that has certain tax exemptions or special treatment because of their status, which unions do, then you need more transparency. If I belong to a union and my money, I have to pay union dues and it goes somewhere, I would like to know how much is being spent
and they're already reporting.
Well, I think that you need to have a better report. You need a better report, of what is going on.
Let's give Tara a chance. Go ahead.
Yeah. I would like to know how much money is going to certain political groups or organizations, or how much the union bosses are making, and what their bonuses are, and what's being covered on. I think that it's clear, and I think that it would be nice as a union member to have that information.
But that is already all reported to the membership.
Okay, let's give Ron a chance now. Go ahead.
It can be public.
I'm a member of a union, and I do pay union dues on every paycheck. I don't see this so much as being a union busting. I see it more as some transparency. As I pay my dues, I would like to know whether that money is going to what party or what party that they support. During the past provincial election, I got a call from a member of my union wanting me to vote for a particular candidate, and I was annoyed by that. I didn't like it because it's my money, and I feel that all members should have some say on where this money goes from. So I see it particularly as being transparent, although this private members bill could be challenged in the court.
Which passed, by the way.
It went past.
It
passed,
but
now.
there could be a challenge in the court whether that is legal or not.
We tried to go through every avenue to ensure that it was legal. That when we got it through, and I'll be really delighted when it actually passes.
Well, first off, Ron, if you go to your AGM, all of that is reported. So all you need to do is go to your AGM. It should be on your back-end site for your union. If you ask your steward for any of those documents, I'm sure that they would be more than happy to share that with you.
Or Ron, if it was transparent, it would be on the website already, and then you could just look at it in the comfort of your own home online.
Well,
anybody could look at it.
I think it's important too, when companies are considering whether or not to sign a deal, if they have complete access over how much money a union has, then it's going to be, it's like they have their game plan already.
All right.
Well, it would be nice
I'm
for those
not
corporations.
anti-union at all. I'm not anti-union.
And again, I really see no problem.
All right, listen, we're going to pick up on this theme, Alex. We're going to pick up on a variation on this theme and talk a little more about unions in the lightning round, but we have to move to the lightning round. And Ron, this one is for you. Then Tara and Alex get a chance as well. And just one quick comment from each. And this has to do with the F-35s, these blessed planes that the federal government has been trying to purchase. They told Canadians that they would cost a certain amount. The opposition parties, to give them their due, said no, that is wrong. It was proven to be wrong. Now, even the government itself is admitting that the cost is 3 times, 4 times what the original estimates were, which has thrown the whole process back on its heels. Peter MacKay, the defense minister, does not look good. Rona Ambrose is trying to save the day to make some sense out of this. What's your party's take?
Well, these are planes that we need for Canada to protect our country. The problem is that I believe that the Conservative government has been keeping so secret about this whole process that it should have been a lot more transparent all along the way from day one to now. And I think this is where our party is trying to come out and say, look, these are necessary, and we tried to make these purchases before, and I believe Chrétien
Time for you. It's got to be embarrassing. It's a bit of mismanagement on your government's part.
I don't see it as embarrassing. I see it as it's not a good day when you have to go back to square one and start all over again in the purchase of planes that we desperately do need in Canada here. But I think that it shows a very conscientious government when you can finally say, okay, well, you know, we've gone through the numbers. Thank you, opposition, for giving us these numbers. Thank you, Auditor General, for those. And we see that it's going to cost too much, and we're not going to go through with it. Isn't that the type of government you want?
Yeah, the government that makes 3 or 4 mistakes before they learn, I guess. Alex, what do you say?
Thanks, Larry.
Opposition has been asking over and over and over for these documents. Really, you know, they say that the unions need some transparency.
Not the military, Alex.
The Conservatives certainly need some transparency and should certainly be sharing documents with opposition. I think that you know, these planes cost a lot of money. Personally, I'd like to see us go back to the Avro Aero. We could, and
Oh my goodness. That's back in the 50s.
Yeah, but the planes actually are better than the F-35.
Our ideology
Okay.
is anyway.
All right,
so,
all right, time. Alex, this is for you, and this is the union theme that we'd started, and it has to do with right-to-work legislation that was passed in some of the states in the United States, many states, which essentially gives workers the right to not pay union dues if they choose not to. And so unions have to work harder to get those dues if it's voluntary rather than mandatory. What do you make of that? Is this union busting?
It certainly is. When you have all kinds of members who can suddenly opt out, then it makes it very difficult for the union to be able to do its work. Interestingly, though, is that right-to-work legislation does not bring jobs into the state. Of the 22 states that have right-to-work legislation, they have, a majority of them have seen no statistically significant increases. In fact, 6 of the 10 states with the highest rates of unemployment have right-to-work legislation.
Is it an idea
That's
whose time has come?
coincidentally. No, I think it's a fantastic idea. I see nothing wrong with it. If a member wants to be part of a union, they have that right, but it's nice to have the right to actually opt out and not have to pay those dues. I think a union should work for your support, not just expect it and expect it out of your paycheck.
Ron, I mean, there's a democratic principle at stake here, and Tara makes a good point, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
I mean, this is the first time I've ever been part of a union, and I don't mind paying union dues. But you can't opt out of the union and expect all those services that the union provides for its members. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. Yep. Either you're in or you're out. But I do believe it's a process that is trying to bust unions in 23 states, I believe. And under the Conservative government, you're going to have, I think, trickle that into our country.
Okay.
Can't wait.
Ron, this one's for you, and it's probably the biggest non-story of the season. The Conservative government federally is allowing employees to decorate their desks, if they wish, with traditional Christmas ornaments. Is this tinsel, or is there some substance here?
Well, why not? It's Christmas. It's a Christmas season, and why not decorate for this season that Christians celebrate all over the world?
Tara?
I agree completely. I think that political correctness has run amok in our country, and I'm glad to see us coming back to the basics. I was in Dubai during Ramadan, and they weren't, shielding me from those religious, that religious time, because I'm not Muslim. So I think, Canada is a predominantly Christian nation, and let's celebrate. It's a holiday, and everyone can enjoy it.
Alex?
Well, as a school board trustee, I have no problem with Christmas decorations. I certainly wish those around me Merry Christmas. I think that what's important, as long as we're celebrating and recognizing all major traditional holidays and customs, then I think that's fair.
And now, panel, it's my turn, and I want to pick up on the union theme again, but this is the question I want to ask. Should unions be allowed to donate to political parties or to political candidates representing particular parties? And we'll start with you, Tara. You know this right-to-work legislation that you are in favor of. One of the reasons that in the United States they said they introduced it was because the unions were contributing to one party only. Here, perhaps two. Here, we have taken advantage of that, so that the Liberals, for example, have been beneficiaries, and certainly the NDP a lot. And does that make those parties honest brokers? And let me give you an example of the local school board that has taken a position of not wanting to interfere in the situation. A lot of the trustees were supported by the local teachers' unions. What do you make of that?
Well, I would like to know what donations are being given by unions. I don't think it is very fair. Maybe I'm speaking from the side of a party that doesn't traditionally get those donations, but I think that it does give an unfair advantage to others. I also don't like the fact that there are so many commercials like from working families, from all these different organizations that you know are union-based, but they don't come right out and say it. So I do think it's unfair.
Alex.
Larry, it's an interesting fact. The Ontario Liberals receive more union donations than the Ontario NDP does.
But is that right?
It is. That is correct. If
but
you
is
go
it,
on,
but is it right?
Is it right?
Should it happen?
I think it depends on the context. I think that if you're allowing corporations and businesses to make donations, then absolutely unions should be allowed. However, if you're not allowing big corporations and big businesses to make donations, then absolutely unions shouldn't be allowed. I think that you have to have a balance.
So you're equating the two. Ron,
yeah,
what do you
I
say?
kind of agree with what you're saying, Alex. I pay union dues, and I would just like to know which party my union is supporting. I know the Liberal Party gets support from unions across this province and
Maybe
across Canada, but you know, just be transparent about it. That's all.
Well, thank you very much. This is our last show, viewers. Before Christmas, as an Opinionators group, we're going to have next week's program dedicated to an Opinion Fest where we partner with the O-Show folks as well. So tune in for that. In the meantime, happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, and a very prosperous New Year to our panel and to our viewers. Thanks for watching. Tune in next week.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.